Hello, this is David, and today I'll be doing the part 2 of Lab 6 for 2030. And we was in Lab 6, we was configuring file services, and today I'd like to finish up on part 2. We're going to be first I'm going to set up a folder on each of the server, and I'm going to call that folder replication, and then I'm going to add a document to each one of the folders on each server, and I'll call it by the server name doc 801, doc 802 for server 802. Then we're going to create a DFS namespace, and we're going to attach those two folders of each on the two servers to that namespace. And then we're going to set up the replication on the namespace, and that way if one of the servers is down, if the namespace server is down, the other server will be able to continue on with the documents that was on the server that was down. And then we're going to be testing our DFS namespace and replication, not our replication. And right down here's what I'm going to do on 801. It's going to be my namespace server, and we're going to call the namespace public, and I'm going to create a folder called folder 01, and then I'll be attaching the folders to from each of the servers, which was called replication, to this folder 01. We should be able to access this folder 01 and see the documents from both servers as if it was in one folder, and that is done by attaching folders from each of the server. And then I'll be putting the document in there so we can see that it's actually working. So the first thing I want to do is set up a folder called replication and add a document to it. So let's just go down here to my computer and bring up the C drive and do a new folder. And we wanted to call it replication. Okay, let's put us a document in there. New text document. This is on 801. So let's put something in there. Save that thing. Okay, let's back up. We want to set up this replication to share. And so I'll just go to share, and then we're going to give domain users co-ownership of this share folder. So let's do a find, and it'll ask us to for administrator password, and this is going back to the domain controller. And what we're looking for is domain users. Right there. Whoops, there it is. Domain users. And we're going to make them co-owners. And then click share. And then done. We'll go ahead and close that out. I've already done this on the server 802, and we've got a folder called replication and doc 02, so we know that's there. So what we want to do now is go back to server 801. It's going to be our namespace server. So we go to admin tools, DFS management. Okay, to create a namespace, we just click on namespace and then right click and do a new namespace, and it'll bring up the wizard. And we want server 801 here that we're on to be the server for this. Bring it up here a little bit. And we're going to give the namespace a name, a public. And then we want to add a settings. You can change permissions on here, and it'll also show you the default local path of the shared folder. So we're just going to take a default. So we're going to do next. We're going to take a default here to be a domain base name server, and we'll click create here. Okay, it looks like it's created our namespace through the wizard. Now we can do a close. So what we want to do now is add folders to it. So we'll just click on our namespace here and do a new folder. And the name of this, we're going to call it, if we look back at our directions here, we're going to name the namespace public, which we did. We're going to name the folder folder 01. Now we're going to need to add our folders that we need in there. So first let's just browse. Okay, if you look right up here, here's server 801, and if you click shared show folders, here's our shared folders. So let's click on the replication. We're going to add this one. Okay, now we want to look at the 802 server. It's a shared folders, and right there's a replication on 802. So we'll say OK, OK, and give it another OK. Okay, after I added the folders and said OK, it's asked me if I want to go ahead and set up a replication group. You can either do it now or later. To add one up later, you would just click on replication up here in the left pane and do a new replication create. And so we'll just go ahead and create it here while we're in the wizard. We'll say yes. Looks like it's got started here, and the first thing it'll ask us for the replication group name, which we called it namespace. This, of course, this is our domain controller, and it was namespace was called public, and our folder was called folder 1, and there's our folder name. We're just going to leave that the same. Click next. Oops, let me back up one. I went too fast. Here's the two servers that we're going to replicate. Is 801 and 802. So we'll do next, and the primary member is, which is 801, that's our namespace server. We'll put that in there. We're going to do a full mesh, and this was done because there are 10 or fewer on our topology, and we're going to do full, and then we're going to do a create. It's completed there, and let's just do a close. Replication will begin when everything gets completed there, so we'll say OK there. If we need to look and see what all we've done in DFS management snap on there, we can click on the plus there, and there's our folder 01. If we click on it, it should show us our two targets, 801, here's the folder, and 802 in the folder. Now let's go down here to replication, and shows our replication of our two folders in our two servers. And while we're in the replication here, up here you notice we've got memberships, connections, folders, and delegation. If we go to connections, if you was wanting to force a replication, you just click on the server, either one of them, and then you got a replication now. Also in the replication on the DFS management, if you go to connections, that's where we could do the replicate now, but also you notice that the sending member and the receiving member, like here's 801 to 802, and 802 back to 801. So now let's close this out, and let's go over here to 802, and what we're going to do is look at that folder. So we're going to go to 801 public here, and there's folder 1, and there's our two documents. The 802 was the one that was on 802 server, and the doc 801 was the one over here. Also, if we look in the computer And since that is being shared as a namespace, if we just go to our replication folder, right there's the two documents. So let's try this right here. We're going to add us another one. Doc 802 added, and let's just add some text to it. Save that thing. I give it time to replicate. And what we want to do is we've added that, and now let's go over here to our server 801 and just see if it's been added over here. We'll just go to the replication folder. Right there it is. Misspelled again there. And to further test our namespace replication, we're on server 801 here. Let's just shut it down and see if we can still see the folders that we had in there from on 802 that we had from 801 here. Let's just shut this completely down and see what we have. Okay, it looks like that our 801 is just completely powered down here in our virtual machine here that we're running. So let's go to 802 and see if that doc 801 folder is still out there where it's replicated across. Sure enough, right there it is. Let's do this, and we'll bring 801 back up and see if whoops, added by 802 to make sure that that it picks the folder back up. So we'll power 801 back up and check that folder again and look at doc 01 and see if we see the words there where we added it from 802, and then we'll verify that everything is working correctly. Okay, it looks like our 801 is booted up there, and if you remember what we done, while this server 801 was down, we went into the document doc 801 and added a sentence there, and it said added by 802. So if everything's working correctly and replicating correctly, that should be added over here on 801 now. So let's go to my computer and look and see if that's is the case. And if we go to our replication folder, there's our 801 doc. Yep, looks like everything's working correctly. That concludes this tutorial. Thank you.